Good morning. Welcome aboard Olay. My name's John Hamilton, and my wife, Carol Leonard, and I have owned her for about 42 years. We first started sailing on her in 1974, and then in 76 went over to Hawaii as part of a four-person crew. This is when it was owned by someone else, and we liked the boat so much after racing it on the bay and then out in the ocean that we decided to buy an L36. That's Lapworth 36. And we investigated all that were for sale, and then finally the owner of the boat that was still in Hawaii said, "Buy my boat," which is what we did. Bill Lapworth is probably best known for the Cal 40, but this was really the last wooden production boat, from his line at least, that was built before the Cal series got started. There were about 72 built. This one is number 7. However, that's the number on the sale. The actual construction date was 1960, and we believe that it was probably within the last 15 or 20 L36s that were built before they stopped making them. As I said, she's a great boat out in the ocean. She's a wonderful boat to sail on the bay. And let's take a little bit of a tour, at least starting back here in the cockpit. I guess it makes sense to point out that we did a complete restoration of the boat about 20 years ago, and in the course of which we decided to go all out, and you'll see that we've got Anderson self-tailing winches all the way around. We've kept some of the original South Coast blocks here on the main sheet, but because they work perfectly well. The hull is made of Primavera mahogany, and that's Philippine mahogany, and it's strip planked. And in 2004, we did a complete bottom job and ended up refastening the hull and then coating it with fiberglass all the way up to the waterline. From the waterline up above, it's all the original, and it's painted in enamel by Brolite. And let's take a pause there. Well, as I indicated, we did a complete restoration with Jim Linderman. It took about a year. And during the course of our ownership with the boat, some done before Jim did his work, we start with transom, which has been completely replaced because it was delaminating. This whole aft bulkhead has been completely replaced. Moving forward, we've got a new depth sounder, a new Ritchie compass. The cockpit sole has been completely replaced. Down underneath it, there's a new gray marine engine. We replaced it with the same size gray marine that it started with, which is 31 horsepower, 4-cylinder gas. And this time it came with a heat exchanger, which was a huge improvement over the previous one, which was just all salt water. And so we're real happy with that. Propeller shaft's been replaced, the coupling, the propeller. It's a two-bladed feathering prop, and from Max Speed, and it drives the boat very nicely. I think that's it. I should point out that this is in the course of changing this bulkhead for a new piece of wood. So in the course of replacing this aft bulkhead, we also decided to give the lazarette a new extra hatch, and that's this thing with a screen in it, and that provides excellent ventilation. There's also a solid piece here with a built-in pocket that you would normally use sailing, and is a good place to store the bilge pump, which is here. It's a whale gusher pump, which I rebuilt last year, so everything's updated in that regard. Oh, and this tiller extension, this is original. It's a laminate of about 7 or 8 pieces of mahogany, and as you can see, it flips over. It is really convenient when you're going to weather to be able to hold on to that while the boat's healing. That's it. Down here is a 4-cylinder gray marine, 31 horsepower. It's identical to the original one that was on the boat, but unlike the original, it's got a heat exchanger, which makes a big difference. We've got the riser here on the manifold with an anti-siphon loop built into it. There's that exhaust system, which has been upgraded and really makes life a lot easier. The blower, the seawater intake, and back there you can't see it, but there's a halon fire extinguisher system and an easy access oil filter. It's easy to change. This red clamp here on the prop shaft is part of the bonding system. The entire boat is bonded with an ElectroGuard system, and it has protected the boat for the last 40 years very nicely. There's a new shaft log, new shaft, and I think those are most of the salient details. The reason for the clamp there is the bonding to the propeller shaft is held on by a brush that's spring-loaded back there, and if the boat's sitting for any length of time, it may begin to lose its continuity. So that red clamp assures that it's fully protecting the system. I may not have mentioned it, but this is the gear shift lever. And it's pretty simple. It's forward, neutral, reverse, and then it gets out of the way. And then over on the other side here, this is the original gray marine tachometer. We've got some new alarms switch for water temperature and oil pressure, a blower switch, and the ignition button. And although this is the original panel for the throttle and choke, those are replacement new throttle and choke cables. So the deck is original. It was built with marine plywood back in 1960. It's covered with fiberglass and then it's been painted with non-skid. The forward hatch here was replaced, and it's got new hardware all the way around and provides very nice ventilation and lighting down below on a nice day. So moving aft here, the funnels are original, although we've had them re-chromed. And then, without taking off the cover, we've got a spinnaker and a Genoa halyard, and on the other side a main halyard. These are all three self-tailing Anderson winches. And then over on the other side here is the Anderson self-tailing winch that is used as part of the reefing gear. And all of the reefing gear comes down, both the downhaul and the outhaul come through a series of blocks along the mast. They're taken up with this winch, and then there are line stoppers on either side of the boom, which secure the reef in position. Okay, here's the forepeak. All the way up forward you find the anchor line, and underneath that is a fortress anchor. Underneath the bunks up here is a 40-gallon water tank, freshwater tank, and then we keep sails and life jackets and whatnot stowed in one of the berths, port side this time. Oh, but I should also notice that here, these cleats that go around this area here is a board goes in there, and then a cushion goes in on top of that, so this entire forward V-berth area can become a single flat expanse. Here in the head, we replaced the sink. We put in a whale foot pump down there below it, which makes life a lot easier. And we've replaced the Wilcox-Crittenden head right here. See, you're going to go around this way, you think? So here in the main cabin, worth pointing out that this table is not original. This is something that Jim Linderman built for us, made of Primavera mahogany, and that's the same wood that's used in trim throughout the main cabin here. Coming around, over on this side, this whole cushion lifts out in order to create a much wider berth, and that line will hold up to a hook up there. Then there's a lot of underside lighting, and that makes it very nice and cozy. when it's dark, as well as this lighting up here. Over on this side, we've got the galley. It's propane. We replaced that, and gimbaled, of course. We've also got fresh and salt water operated by these whale foot pumps down here. The cabin sole that you're looking at is, again, a replacement that Jim Linderman built. And we also took out the original foam tile ceiling in the cabin, and we've replaced it with these panels up here that were done very nicely by South Beach Canvas Works. During the course of the remodel or refurbishment of the boat, we tore out the entire electrical system and started with a whole new electrical panel, and it was really nicely built. It's very easy to access and covers everything. We've got inside the boat, we've got 12 volts for things that plug into a cigarette lighter type outlet, such as the fan up at the forward end of the galley. We've also got 110 outlets pretty much throughout. Here are the main switches. This is the power for the engine here. We have 2 banks of batteries that are underneath the settee right here, and one for house and one for the engine. And for the galley, there is an electric solenoid switch that is required to be turned on. So that's a redundancy to avoid the danger of accumulation of propane. And then on the other side, we've got the ICOM radio there, and the antenna for that's up at the top of the mast, and it works just fine.